Welcome back to Political Chowder. Well, my last guest is in his second tour of duty as a member of Congress from Texas. When he first left office, he was replaced by a very interesting member of Congress. You may recognize the name, Tom DeLay. He also ran for president in 1988 as a libertarian. My guest announced his plans to run on the Republican ticket for president on C-SPAN's Washington Journal. This is a really cool statistic. In early June, he had only 6 national campaign staff. I've been told that that number has increased significantly, thank you to Mayor Rudolph Giuliani in the South Carolina debates. In his high school days, our guest was a remarkable athlete, having won the Pennsylvania State Championship in the 220-yard dash. And for my internet junkies, he has more than twice as many YouTube subscribers as the entire conga line of Republican candidates for president combined. And this is my personal favorite from Texas Monthly magazine. It's a quote. The phrase honest politician is an oxymoron. Yet in the sense that Paul has never, ever voted against his stated principle, the phrase describes him. My problem with the Texas Monthly quote is that, sadly, I'm not sure that honesty is part of the roadmap to victory. And with that, let me introduce my last guest, Dr. Congressman candidate Ron Paul from Texas. Welcome to the program, Ron. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's real nice to be here.
Well, I need to tell you something. I've been watching you on television, and I noticed that you did the Colbert Report. And in the Colbert Report, since you were fairly libertarian in your views, they asked you what part of the government you would get rid of. And you raised your hand and virtually got rid of everything. The Department of Education, Homeland Security, the IRS. But then they asked the question, would you get rid of UNICEF? So I thought that since I wanted to make sure that the one thing that you kind of lowered your hand for, if you want to make a contribution on your way out, we have brought a UNICEF trick-or-treat can, and we have it here provided for your convenience. So I'm going to move that over here. I want to start by asking a question that no one else has asked you, I don't think, to date. And that is, I'm going to wave the magic wand. You are now President of the United States. So, Mr. President Ron Paul, what I want to know is, who do you value and who would you bring close to be on your cabinet? Because in the end, we don't run a nation, run a government as an individual. We do it with a cast of characters. And I want to know who would be on that bench that would follow Ron Paul into office.
I don't have a long list. I can name a few people, but they won't be well known. Okay. I would probably follow some of the habits I've had when I have gone to Washington as a congressman, because I've been elected actually 3 different times to start anew in Washington. And one rule I had was never to take anybody from the Hill. I didn't take anybody. You know, you get
real blank slate.
You get a stack, and they've been there all the time. And I figure they're part of a part of the problem. So I always got people from outside, even though they didn't know the system. They were people that I knew understood what I was all about, and they were friends or they were philosophically attuned. So
you know that there are big positions. There's, Secretary of State. There's Secretary of Defense. There's Vice President. Give me the kind of individual, and even a name would be helpful, because I understand that I wouldn't necessarily want people who were sort of part of the institutional rot, but at the same time, they would have to have someone who had sort of a commanding presence.
Okay, I would start, for somebody to be close and be well known, because I know philosophically he's attuned, and you would know his name is John Stossel, because he's an important figure and he handles himself well, and philosophically he's very interested in consumerism, from a libertarian viewpoint, so I like him. Now, there's another economist, and his name is Walter Williams. I don't know if you know his name. He's at the University of Pennsylvania. He just happens to be a black economist, but he's a free market economist. He would be very good in an economic position. James Grant is a writer. He used to write for Barron's, but he's an Austrian free market, hard money economist. He'd be great at the Secretary of Treasury. And some of the people that I have followed and actually quoted with in recent times about foreign policy, people like Robert Pape and Michael Schur. Okay. These are individuals who know a lot about the CIA, the way the government works. They've been historians and they have studied. And those are the kind of people that would have a historic perspective that I think would be so important.
And understand the reason I ask this question is that I go back to the 2000 race,